I'm sure James appreciates that very much. You'll have another opportunity in a moment. One of the most outstanding preachers in our country has preached to over 10 million people. 500,000 people have professed faith in Jesus Christ. The Vice President of the Round Table, a man who was greatly responsible for this meeting coming to pass. One of God's great servants in this time. Won't you welcome James Robison?
I really appreciate the fact that I know you are not applauding men tonight. I am convinced that you are applauding the greatest country on the face of this earth, and you want it to remain the greatest country on the face of this earth. I am convinced that it is the greatest country on the face of this earth because of its heritage and its foundation. Proverbs 29, verse 2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Proverbs 14:34, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. There is no possible way that you can separate God from government and have a successful government. God is the ultimate authority. I tire of the constant reference to Christians and to religious people and the term separation of church and state implying that if you belong to a church or if you claim faith in God and believe in God, you are to have no basic influential part in political activity or policy making. If the righteous, the pro-family, the moral, the biblical, the godly, the hardworking, and the decent individuals in this country stay out of politics, who on this earth does that leave to make the policies under which you and I live and struggle to survive? Neither our founding fathers or Jesus Christ initiated the godless interpretation of separation of church and state as it is presently presented to so many American people. For Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." If we live in unsavory times, and we do, it is because there is a deficiency of the sacred salt that gives flavor to all life on this earth. We must begin to literally penetrate every area of our society. Yes, even the political area. How do you expect the godly, the decent, the moral, those who have not sold out to some special power or special interest group. How do you expect them to get elected if godly people do not support them and vote for them? How can you expect any politician or any political candidate to stand for principle if the people who believe in principle don't even vote and stand behind them? We're the guilty ones. If there is darkness in the land, it is because of a scarcity of light. Jesus said, put the light on the lampstand, not under the bushel. I would highly suggest you read the book sometimes. It won't hurt the media. It won't hurt politicians. There is marvelous healing in this book. And it needs to be applied to the cancerous visible sores that embarrass us before the whole world right now. And we'd better apply the one cure. If you think our solution is political, you too have been deceived. Don't you commit yourself to some political party or politician. You commit yourself to the principles of God and demand those parties and politicians align themselves with the eternal values in this book, and America will be forever the greatest nation on this earth. I've been told this book doesn't say anything about economics. I want you to know this is the one reliable economics book you can read. It is a historical book. It is a scientific book. It has a vast amount of medical knowledge and wisdom. This is the one book upon which you can rely. I'll tell you one thing. This book will teach you about your economy. And it'll teach you what we're doing will destroy any nation on earth right now. I wonder how long it's going to take the American people to begin to play the suicidal economic game of our current government. Suppose at tax time next year we find ourselves a little short. Why not just take a roll of toilet paper, unroll it, and print up some more money if you're short? That's what they do when they need money. And the money they're printing is as worthless as toilet tissue. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Would you dare to suggest that people print up money that's deflated and worthless? You'll be locked up. What I want to know is, when are we going to get smart and lock up the people that are paying their bills with valueless money by printing it up whenever they need it? Who's going to lock up that unbridled, excessive, uncontrolled federal government? You better believe it. I'm wondering, as one who was a minority, I lived in an area where 10% of the people were white, the rest were blacks and Latin American. I was a minority. I was poor. I was very poor. I didn't need a handout. I needed someone to put a hand out and get involved with me. And before you applaud, I want to address the hypocrisy in this room. You want to know why we've got such a terrible, terrible attitude right now toward the needy in this country? And we've been deceived into believing that the government can spend our way out of debt and pay off the poor. Where are they going to get all that money they're promising now recently, the billions and billions of dollars? Where are they going to get all that money? Who's going to produce it? Don't you know the government doesn't produce anything and was never intended to? It's a protector. It's not a provider, and it's certainly not a producer. It's a confiscator and a consumer and a disperser of your wealth. It produces nothing. And it will function best when it functions least. It is a regulator. It is not a provider, and certainly not a producer. I'd like to know what on earth ever gave the politicians the idea they could run our business. Look what a mess they've made of their business. I wish they'd butt out of our business. You say, what's the answer to the economic problem? I want to tell you, folks, quit criticizing the system and the welfare programs and get out there in the ditch with people that need help and get dirty with them until you get them out. You got no business applauding until you're willing to get in the ditch with people. Folks, we'd better get back to God. I believe we need to send a message to Washington and send it loud and clear. If this nation is to be great, it won't be one nation under government, and it doesn't say on our coins, one nation under government, and it doesn't say in our pledge, a nation under God, or in government we trust, or one nation under government. It says one nation under God, in God we trust. I'm convinced unless we trust in God, this nation is finished. I thank God Mr. Reagan was willing to come here tonight, because it took a lot of concern about what you think and a lot of courage for him to walk in here tonight and speak to you. And I want to thank him for coming. May God bless America, because America once again blesses God. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Criswell. Thank all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And please. Thank you. Thank you. Our two good governors who are here, Dr. Criswell, Reverend Chairman, the ladies and gentlemen here on the platform, and you ladies and gentlemen. You know, a few days ago, I addressed a group in Chicago and received their endorsement for my candidacy. Now, I know this is a nonpartisan gathering, and so I know that you can't endorse me, but I only brought that up because I want you to know that I endorse you and what you are doing. Since the start of my presidential campaign, I and many others have felt a new vitality in American politics, a fresh sense of purpose. A deeper feeling of commitment is giving new energy and new direction to our public life. You are the reason. Religious America is awakening, perhaps just in time, for our country's sake. I've seen the impact of your dedication. I know the sincerity of your intent, and I'm deeply honored to be with you here tonight. You know, I'm told that throughout history, man has adopted about 4 billion laws. It's always seemed to me, however, that in all that time and with all those laws, we haven't improved by one iota on the 10 Commandments. Today, you and I are meeting at a time when traditional Judeo-Christian values based on the moral teachings of religion are undergoing what is perhaps their most serious challenge in our nation's history. Nowhere is the challenge to traditional values more pronounced or more dangerous than in the area of public policy debate. So it's fitting that the topic of our meeting should be national affairs, for it is precisely in the affairs of our nation where the challenge to those values is the greatest. In recent years, we've seen a new and cynical attack on the part of those who would seek to remove from our public policy debate the voice of traditional morality. This tactic seeks not only to discredit traditional moral teachings, but also to exclude them from public debate by intimidation and name-calling, as we were so eloquently told just a short time ago. We have all heard it charged that whenever those with traditional religious values seek to contribute to public policy, they're attempting to impose their views on others. We're told that any public policy approach incorporating traditional values is out of bounds. This is a matter that transcends partisan politics and demands the attention of every American regardless of party. If we have come to a time in the United States when the attempt to see traditional moral values reflected in public policy leaves one open to irresponsible charges, then the structure of our free society is under attack and the foundation of our freedom is threatened. Under the pretense of separation of church and state, religious beliefs cannot be advocated in many of our public institutions, but atheism can. You know, I've often had a fantasy. I thought of serving an atheist a delicious gourmet dinner and then asking him, he or she, whether they believed there was a cook. When I hear the First Amendment used as a reason to keep traditional moral values away from policymaking, I'm shocked. The First Amendment was written not to protect the people and their laws from religious values, but to protect those values from government tyranny. This is what Madison meant when he drafted the Constitution and that precious First Amendment. This is what the state legislatures meant when they ratified it. And this is what a long line of Supreme Court decisions have meant. But over the last 2 or 3 decades, the federal government seems to have forgotten both that old-time religion and that old-time Constitution. In our own country, we can get our house back in order. The drugs that ravage the young, the street crimes that terrorize the elderly, these are not necessary parts of life. Despite some intolerable court decisions, we do not have to forever tolerate the pornography that defaces our neighborhoods, or the permissiveness that permeates our schools. We can break the yoke of poverty by unleashing America's economic power for growth and expansion, not by making anyone the perpetual ward of the state. We can cherish our aged, helping families to care for one another rather than driving their members into impersonal dependence upon government programs and government institutions. When I made the decision to seek the presidency, I quoted one of those early colonists who landed on the Massachusetts shore, telling the little band with him that the eyes of all mankind were on them and that they could be as a shining city upon a hill. Well, the eyes of all mankind are still upon us, pleading with us to keep our rendezvous with destiny, to give hope to all who yearn for freedom and cherish human dignity. We have God's promise that if we turn to him and ask his help, we shall have it. With his help, we can still become that shining city upon a hill. I've always believed that every blessing brings with it a responsibility. The responsibility to use that blessing wisely, to share it generously, and to preserve it for those who come after us. If we believe God has blessed America with liberty, then we have not just a right to vote, but a duty to vote. We have not just the freedom to work in campaigns and run for office and comment on public affairs. We have a responsibility, as you've already been told again so eloquently tonight, to do so. That is the only way to preserve our blessings. Extend them to others and hand them on to our children. If you do not speak your mind and cast your ballots, then who will speak and work for the ideals we cherish? Who will vote to protect the American family and respect its interest in the formulation of public policy? Who, if not you and millions more like you, will vote to defend the defenseless and the weak, the very young, the poor, and the very old? When you stand up for your values, when you assert your civil rights to vote and to participate fully in government, you're defending our true heritage of religious liberty. You're standing in the tradition of Roger Williams, Isaac Backus, and all the other dissenters who established for us the rights of religious conscience. Much has changed since the Constitution guaranteed all Americans their religious liberty. But some things must never change. The perils our country faces today and will face in the 1980s seem unprecedented in their scope and consequences. But our response to them can be the response of men and women in any era who seek divine guidance in the policies of their government and the promulgation of their laws. When the Israelites were about to enter the Promised Land, they were told that their government and laws must be models to other nations, showing to the world the wisdom and mercy of their God. To us, as to the ancient people of the promise, there is given an opportunity, a chance to make our laws and government not only a model to mankind, but a testament to the wisdom and mercy of God. Let it be said of us, let it be said of us, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. May I close on a personal note? I was asked once in a press interview what book I would choose if I were shipwrecked on an island and could have only one book for the rest of my life. I replied that I knew of only one book that could be read and reread and continue to be a challenge: the Bible, the Old and New Testaments. I can only add to that, my friends, that I continue to look to the Scriptures today for fulfillment and for guidance. Indeed, it is an incontrovertible fact that all the complex and horrendous questions confronting us at home and worldwide have their answer in that single book. Could I just take one more moment of your time? And maybe here I'm telling a little story that you perhaps have already seen. I don't know how it is being circulated. I only know that it came into my hands by way of a friend. It was a card, a single paragraph on that card, author unknown. But the author was telling the story of a dream the author had had. A dream of walking on the beach beside the Lord while all the scenes of his lifetime flashed in the heavens above, leaving the two pairs of footprints in the sand. And then, as the final scene of his life was on the sky, he turned around and looked back at the path on the beach. And he saw that every once in a while there was only one set of footprints. And he said that every time the one set of footprints came at the time when the scene in the sky was of a terribly troublesome and despairing time in his life. And he said, Lord, you said that if I would follow you, you would walk beside me, that I would always have your help. Why is it that in the times when I needed you most, you left me. And I see only one set of footprints. And the Lord said, my precious child, I would never leave you in your time of trouble. When you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. Thank you very much. Thank you.